Okay, guys, so now we are in session two, and session two is all about distance and preferences. This is our last two key factors. Remember, in session one, our key factor was running stats, and now our key factor is distance and preferences. And we're going to dive deeper into this. This one is going to be a little more simpler than running stats, but there still is like subjective aspects to this as well. But don't worry, we're going to learn all about it here. So let's get started. All right, guys, I bet you recognize this face already. This is Kelly. We met her in session one. She was one of our four runners or three runners that actually four runners that we had met previously. And, you're looking at the same stats and stuff like that. And we just want to figure out what shoe can we recommend her because we recommended John a shoe last time. Let's try recommending Kelly a shoe, but with some new information. We now know that she prefers high support shoes. So we know that she started running a month ago. She runs 1 to 3 miles for a single run. And now we also know she prefers high support shoes. What shoe would you recommend her? We also have stats on these shoes, so you can see what these shoes are really for, their descriptions. So I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to look at these shoes, and then I'm gonna give you the answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said the On Cloud X4, not quite. If you also said the New Balance More V5, also not quite. If you said the Saucony Hurricane 24, you're correct. And you're probably wondering, Ashley, how did you even know to choose that shoe? All of them look kind of the same. They have kind of the same stats. Why that shoe? And I'm going to tell you. So even though it's specified as a mid to long distance shoe, it's fine for her to pick that shoe, first of all. I also want you to look at the pronation. The pronation says it's for overpronation. And remember, our overpronators are the people that most likely need a support in the shoe. Does that mean that they have to have support? No, but she prefers high support shoes. And if you look at her other two options, which only have neutral pronation, you're going to realize that the Saucony Hurricane 24 is the shoe for her. It fits what she needs. And we're going to get into, distance and the cushion and stuff like that. And we're going to wrap everything together, all three key factors together at the end to see why specifically this shoe. And we're going to see the subjectivity of choosing the proper running shoe and how you can kind of play around with that. And something you should also remember is that for running shoes, there may be a recommended distance from like short to mid to long, but people who may have been running for a while have different taste for the shoe for a distance. So, for example, some people might not really want to wear the On Cloud X4 for a short to mid distance, maybe long. Is it always recommended due to the cushioning? No, but some people want to use it maybe for a long run. It all depends on you. That's why it's kind of subjective because it's all about how you feel about that shoe. Of course, the community comes up with their own recommendation and stuff like that. Even the Saucony Hurricane is actually um, said to be a daily training shoe. You can use it for those short distances and stuff. But a lot of runners also use it mainly for mid to long when their legs may get tired and they have that extra support for the shoe. So yeah, you don't always have to listen to the recommendations, but that's because some people have their own. But this is just like a baseline. But it's okay. I know I just said a lot in just this beginning portion, but we're going to learn all about this and just the patterns that you can see with running shoes and what to look out for. So let's get going. Let's learn more about distance and preferences. So let's get started. We first have our distance. Now, what is distance in this aspect for this training program? It is all about the length of the run. How long is that run? And there are different categories, of course, and we just have to remember for distance, the longer the distance, the more comfort and support that is probably needed, depending on the runner, of course, all on your stats, but usually longer distance, more support, more cushion. Um, for 1 to 3 miles, that's our short distance. Less cushioning is needed. I'm gonna use the term low stack, but we're gonna learn about low stack. You're gonna have just a smidgen of support for that shoe. You don't need as much because the distance is so short. Our 4 to 9 is our mid distance. Moderate cushion is needed. Usually it's moderate or balanced, is a word you're gonna hear a lot. So balanced cushioning. And then R10 or more is counted as long distance. And high cushioning is usually needed for this. But you can use, like I said, balanced cushion for a long distance. You can use short, less cushioning for a mid distance. But this is just generalities. Now let's also get into our preferences. Preferences is just what a runner prefers in a shoe, because at the end of it all, it's about what you want to run in. And while you can definitely recommend a better shoe or a good shoe, you don't want to just push a shoe onto somebody that they don't want to run in. So while there are many ways to select one, it's all about your preferences. And of course, there are many preferences from soft to firm, low to high stack, which I mentioned earlier. We're going to get into it, don't worry. No versus low versus high support. And you're probably wondering, like, how do you have all three of that? Don't worry. And there's drop preference. We're not going to get into drop preference into this in this session. We'll get into it in the next session because you guys don't know what drop is yet. But in session 3, we'll talk about drop, where we'll have my favorite session, which is learning about shoe aspects. So yeah, let's dive deep into this first one, which is distance. I know you're probably like, Ashley, we just learned about distance. I can't even remember everything we just learned. We just got a smidgen of that information, but don't worry. I always like to test your knowledge first. It's fun to just try and apply without just learning all the information and testing you. So let's try to figure out the distance our little gang of runners run. So first, let's start off with Julie. Julie, remember, she runs 6 miles for a single run. What distance do you think she runs? I'm going to give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said mid distance, you are right. She runs 6 miles. Remember, mid distance is from 4 to 9, and she's a mid distance runner, or she at least runs mid distance. Now let's talk about our next runner, Kelly. Remember, she runs 1 to 3 miles for a single run. What distance does she run? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said long, you're wrong because she's short. She's a short distance runner. Remember, our 1 to 3 miles is short distance. Of course, anything under that is also like half a mile is of course short distance too. So if she only ran half a mile, she's also short. Anyways, good job. Now let's go on to our next runner. I bet you guys all remember John. He's the one who started this all. And he runs 12 miles for a single run. What distance does he run? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said short for this one, you're also wrong because he is our long distance runner. John runs all those miles. Remember, 10 or more is usually counted as long distance. Now let's do our last runner, Chris. Chris runs 3 to 4 miles for a single run. What distance does he run? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said long, you're wrong. But if you said short or mid, you're kind of right because he's in between. I know it says like 3 to 4. Remember, our short was 1 to 3, and our mid was 4 to 9. And he runs 3 to 4. So he's in that cusp. And you could say some people would say he definitely runs short. And some people may say he run mid, but I'll just put him in between because it's all about kind of perception. Some people run 50-mile ultra marathons. So it all depends on you know, what your relationship with running is. But I'm gonna put him in between of short to mid distance for now. If you stuck with me this long, good job, because we're about to go into some more about this topic. So congratulations. I'm proud of you guys. All right, and we're still talking about distance, okay? And I just want to point out some things with distance, okay? Starting with short distance. Now, you see when I said less cushioning needed, right? I want to show you what those cushions usually look like, and it's usually the midsole, which we'll get into the next session, but we're just going to call it cushion for now as well. And as you can see, if you look at the cushion on these shoes, you will see that they're pretty low. Like there's not too much to it. And if this is your first time like really actually looking at a running shoe, you can't tell the difference between low and maybe a balanced or moderate cushioning. But I'm about to show you that here as well. But these are low stack shoes. You can really see it on the first shoe, the On Cloud X4, because look how little cushioning there is, you know. And of course, it's a of course spectrum. Low cushioning can look like the On Cloud 4X or the Saucony Convara. Some people might look at the Saucony Convara and say that's a balanced cushion shoe, you know, but Saucony Convara 13 is used for short distances. You know, I could run in mid distance with it. Would I prefer that? No, because I've actually run in this shoe. But let's go on to our next one, which is mid distance. Their cushioning looks like this. I don't know if you can quite see, but hopefully you can. They have, as you can tell, compared to the short distance, a little bit more cushioning. You can see how it's growing a little bit. And of course, I also have a shoe here, my own running shoe, that has the cushioning as well. This is usually counted as like mid to high or balanced to high cushioning as well, just depending on how you see it. But yeah, that's your balance cushioning. You can run mid distance in these shoes. You can run short distance as well, and potentially even long. It's just remember, the longer your run gets, you're probably gonna want some more cushioning, which gets us into our long run. And you're gonna see the very big difference between the long run cushioning of the cushioning of shoes made for more longer runs versus short. Can you see like how tall they are? Especially, this is my favorite shoe to use to show people the difference between cushioning. The New Balance Morphe 5, our first shoe that's shown there, the white one. People can be like, whoa, that's a massive shoe. I showed my older sister, she's like, that's a massive shoe. It's like a wall of cushioning. So yes, you can see the difference between a New Balance Morphe 5 for our long run and an On Cloud X4 for our short run. So like don't get confused too much. You will be able to tell the difference after you look, not the cushion after you analyze shoes a little bit. Just look at them and their cushioning. So don't worry too much about being confused. After a while, you will see the pattern. And the different the pattern in running shoes and the different heights. So just by looking at it, you can kind of tell, yeah, that shoe would be good for short, and that good would shoe would be good for long or mid distance, right? But remember, this is not a perfect science, but you'll at least be right 80% of the time just by looking at the how much cushioning there is. And of course, I'm not just gonna leave you high and dry. We're gonna test ourselves on this. We're gonna see if we can get it right. In the next section, just remember that short, low cushioning, less cushioning, mid, balanced, medium cushioning or moderate cushioning, long, high, a lot of cushioning. Just remember our New Balance Morphe 5. Now, will they all look like that? Like this big block of cushion? No, sometimes they look like this, and you wouldn't think that this would count as high, but that's pretty high if you see it in person. Anyway, let's get on to the next one and actually apply what we just learned about cushioning. Hey, okay, so let's get started with this one. I said I would let you practice what we just learned about, cushioning. So remember, short distance, less low cushioning, mid distance, moderate balanced cushioning, and high or long distance, high, a lot of cushioning. Remember, this is not a science, it's more of just seeing a pattern, and we're just trying to get an idea of this. So let's recommend the distance for different types of shoes, starting with our Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to look at the shoe, analyze it a little bit, and you tell me what you believe the distance is for this shoe. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said mid distance, you are correct. It is not too low, it's not too high. It's right in the middle, right in between. It's balanced, moderate cushioning. So it's definitely made for our mid distance. Can you use it for short? Yes. Could you potentially use it for long? Yes. But does it really fit well with our mid distance? Yeah. So remember, it's a range. It's not a science. You're just looking for a pattern. Let's start with our next shoe, which is our On Cloud X4. Short, mid, or long. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said short, you are correct. This cushioning on this shoe is pretty low. I wouldn't really want to go very far with it. You can try to use it for mid distance, of course. There's one thing I forgot to mention is that, usually it's a range. Usually it's not always just like short only or long only. Sometimes, like, there's always two distances you can kind of use it for. So yes, but I would use the On Cloud for more of a short distance. Let's get on to our next one. We have our Nike Free Run, short, mid, or long. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said short, you are correct. I've actually had this shoe before, and it is a very low stack shoe. I know sometimes the cushioning can seem very confusing right here because it looks like it could kind of be maybe moderate balance cushioning, but it's actually a very low stack shoe. And so I would definitely say this is for a short distance. Let's try our next one. Our Saucony Hurricane 24. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said mid or long, but especially long, then you are definitely correct. I would definitely use this for a long run shoe. I see a lot of people even use it for short distance. It doesn't have to be just one. It can span all three or just two, and even just one. Usually one is just for a specific sport like spikes and stuff like that for the track. But the Saucony Hurricane 24 is really good for long distance because of all that cushioning. And of course, it can be used for mid or short, but people love it for long distance running. Let's go on to our next one, which we have the Nike Pegasus, a shoe we keep seeing here on this on these in this program. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said mid, I would agree. This is a mid distance shoe based on the balance cushion. You can go up to mid distance. You can also use it for short. That doesn't mean just because it's, like I said, there's a range. Short, mid, definitely works for this shoe. Long, it's kind of pushing it, but definitely short or mid. Our Asics Metaspeed Edge Plus. Mid or short, mid, or long. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said long distance, I'm gonna agree with you. This is actually like a very advanced shoe. A lot of advanced runners use it, intermediate to advanced runners use this shoe. It has a carbon plate. We're not gonna talk about that right now. That's very advanced. But yes, this is used for marathons, and people love this shoe, and even half marathons. A marathon is 26.2 miles, and a half marathon is 13.1. So yeah, this is used a lot for the long distance and even mid distance. Now we have our New Balance More V5. This shoe, is it short, mid, or long? I feel like this is gonna be easy. We've been looking at this shoe for so long. Five, four, three, two, one. If you said long distance, you are so correct. Just look at our wall of cushion. How could it not be for long distance? Now, I'm not saying it's only long distance. It is definitely used for short and mid and also long, but because of how much cushion it is, most people use it for long distance and even mid distance, you know? So I'm gonna push it into the realm of just long, distance shoe. And let's look at our Asics Nova Blast 5. Short, mid, or long? Five, four, three, two, one. If you said mid or short, you are correct. This shoe has a balanced cushion, and so it is definitely, made for those mid distances due to its moderate cushion. But you can also, of course, like I said, use it for short distances. Our Saucony Kinvara, this should say 13. It's not the 14. This is the 13. But our Saucony Kinvara 13, is it short, mid, or long? Five, four, three, two, one. If you said short distance, most definitely it is a low stack shoe. It's made for them short distances. You can use it for mid. It can be pushing it a little bit, but you can use it for mid. Long, I would not use this for a long run shoe. There's just not enough cushioning. You're gonna feel it after a while, but definitely that short or mid distance. And now I believe that's our end goal for, or our last one. And now we've just applied it to a bunch of different shoes. I think we did at least 12. Let me stop. We did at least 9 shoes that we just figured out a distance for them, what distance to use them for. And I think that was a pretty good practice. So let's move on to the next thing. So I know we talked about preferences, right? We touched on it a little bit. Remember, it's all just about what a runner prefers in a shoe. And preferences, there's a lot more preferences than I state here. I only state 4 of them, and we're only going to focus on the top 3. We're not going to focus on drop preference. But there's a lot more than just soft and firm, low and high, stack, no versus low versus high support. It can just be anything, to be quite honest, but these are something that you should look for as a beginner in a shoe for what you want. This will probably, help you out to see what you prefer. So for our soft versus firm, I think this is quite easy. Is the shoe soft or is it firm? We have soft shoes like the New Balance More V5, and then firm shoes like the On Cloud X4. Now, I will tell you this right now. You can't always tell how a shoe feels. Let me say, most of the time you can't tell how a shoe feels by looking at it. You have to put your foot in the shoe, walk around in it, bounce around a little bit in it to, simulate how it would feel when you're running. Because, just squishing it, every shoe can feel firm when you're just squishing it because sometimes it's just not, you know, squishable. But when you're putting your foot in it and you got all your weight in it, you can tell how soft or firm a shoe is. Some people even have differences. Some people may think one shoe is a little firmer than a shoe that people said was soft and vice versa. But most of the time, there's a general consensus. But our New Balance More V5 is definitely a very soft shoe, and our On Cloud X4 is definitely a firmer shoe. And then we have our low versus high stack. I mentioned this earlier about a shoe, I think, believe being high stack, but this is actually just, the height of the shoe. How high is that shoe? We just learned this for distance, right? The amount of cushioning. Our Nike Free Runs are a more of a low stack shoe. There's less cushioning. Nike Pegasus, it's actually a medium. I didn't put this here, but it's like a balanced, moderate stack. It's a balanced stack. It's not too low, not too high, balance. And then we have our New Balance More V5, which is more of a high stack shoe. There's no questioning if it's low or high. It's a high stack shoe. And yeah, you just know that stack is usually with the cushion. And then we have our no versus low versus high support. Probably thinking, how do you have low support in a shoe? But here are our three shoes. Our Nike Pegasus, there's no support in this shoe. It's a neutral running shoe, just no extra support. Meanwhile, we have the Ultra Via Olympus and we have the Asics Nova Blast 5. How do they have low support? You always should look out for shoes with a wider base in the forefoot. That's how you know that it is low support. So it's giving that support because it has a wider base. So it gives you, more to land on. So, you don't maybe overpronate. So that's how it gives you that extra little low support because of that wider foot, a base in the forefoot, which my Hokas are usually um well known for this, well known for a wider base in the foot, in the forefoot. So look out for that if you want low support. And then our Saucony Hurricane 24s is high support. That shoe is made for stability. You will see the word stability as well a lot. Stability just means support. So you'll see the Saucony Hurricane 24 is a very supportive shoe. It has high support. So this is some of our preferences that we're going to be looking at for the rest of this session. These are the only ones we're going to focus on, and I believe the most important. So let's continue on. So we're going to help our gang of runners and we're going to recommend them a shoe just based off of preferences. I know we just learned about distance and we learned about running stats. We're not going to put that all together yet. We're just focused on preferences. What would they like in a shoe? Okay, so we're going to start off with our first runner, which is Julie. Julie, she likes a firm shoe, no support. Look through every shoe, try to find what shoe could fit her. Um, it's all depending on her preferences. Just remember that. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said either the On Cloud for X4 or the Asics Metaspeeds Edge Plus, you're correct because remember she prefers firm shoes and no support. Firm shoe, no support. Now, like I said, it's all about what they want. Could one of these shoes be more for an advanced or maybe beginner runner? Yes, but that doesn't matter because it's kind of subjective. But we just want to fit that shoe to her. She wants firm, no support. She's got firm, she's got no support. All right, good job. Now let's go on to our second runner, Kelly. And all Kelly wants in a shoe is high support. Gonna give you 5 seconds to look over everything once again, and you tell me what you think, what shoe you think fits her. What would you recommend her? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said the Saucony Hurricane 24, yes. She said, all I want in a shoe is high support. This is the only shoe here that is high support. All right. This is no, this is no, this is no, this is low, this is no, this is no. She wants a high support shoe. She doesn't care about anything else. She just wants it to be high. So good job if you recommended her that shoe. Now let's get into our next runner, which is Chris. Chris just wants a balanced stack. That's all he cares for. Remember, just like with Julie, we saw that there's more than one shoe that can fit her. The possibility could be the same for Chris. Remember that. So let's see what type of shoe you would recommend him based on his preferences. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's actually 3 shoes you could recommend Chris because all he said is, I just want a balanced stack shoe. You know, you can give him the Asics Nova Blast 5, or you can give him the Nike Pegasus, or you could even give him the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. He doesn't care if it's a soft shoe, a no support shoe, a low support shoe. He just wants to make sure it's a balanced stack. And remember, balanced stack just means, moderate amount of cushioning. It's a balanced cushion, not too low, not too high. He just wants balance. All right. So good job. Next, we have our last runner, John. We all remember John, our star of the show. He started it all. He wants a soft shoe and he also wants it to be high stack. what shoe would you recommend him? Let me give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said the Nova Blast, the New Balance More V5 and the Saucony Hurricane 25, you are, or 24, oh my God, words, you are correct, because not only are they both soft shoes, they are both high stack shoes. He doesn't care if one is high support or no support. He just wants it to be soft and he wants it to be a high stack shoe. All that cushioning. So, yeah, good job, everybody. We just recommended shoes based off just preferences. And that's, a simpler way. Like I told you, you don't need everything. Maybe someone only has their preferences. You can still recommend a shoe. So I hope you learned a little something. Let's go on to the next thing. So I know we learned everything from running stats, to distance, to preferences. And you're just like, okay, I learned all of those things separately. How do I combine them all together to all those key factors together to recommend someone the proper running shoe? How do I pick the proper running shoe for myself using all of those? So I want to help everybody tie them all together. We're going to practice using one of the runners we've already met. We already know her running level, her distance that she runs, her, possibly pronation or stuff like that, her preferences and all of that. We're going to tie in some of those together. And remember, like I said, you don't need absolutely everything. It's all about just getting an overall picture, how close you can get, da 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 da. And at the end of the day, it's about what you prefer too. So let's help Julie. We know Julie, all right? We already know who she is. She's an intermediate runner, running for a little over a year. She runs 6 miles for a single run. She has neutral pronation. She is a midfoot striker, and she performs firm and no support shoes. I know this is a lot. So with this one, I'm going to help you out with the idea, like how to analyze this, the process. All right. First, we know that she's been running for a little over a year. She's counted as an intermediate runner for this program, okay? And she runs 6 miles for a single run. What do we know about 6 miles? That running distance. It's a mid distance, right? 4 to 9 is a mid distance running length. Now we also know she has a neutral pronation. What do we know about neutral pronation? It's that it doesn't need any support. It's neutral. It's most shoes are neutral running, made for neutral pronation. We also know she's a midfoot striker. And remember, our midfoot strikers, they land on flat on the ground evenly. Okay, so we know she's a midfoot striker. And then we also know that she prefers firm and no support shoes. So just remember that even though there's a lot of information, there might be more than one answer correct, or there might only be one correct answer based on what we have. We're not a running shoe store. We only have 3 shoes. So let's break this down. Let's start with our Saucony Hurricane 24s. It's for a beginner to intermediate, which fits her. It's for mid to long distance. She runs mid distance most of the time. That's good for her. It is high and soft. We know that she prefers firm shoes. So it's getting a little iffy there. And then we know for the foot strike, it's for forefoot, midfoot. She's a midfoot striker, so that does fit her. But we see that it's for overpronation. She has neutral pronation, so she is not really looking for a shoe that needs support. And remember, when you have overpronation, you need a shoe most likely that needs support. And she wants a shoe with no support. That's her preference. So we can X that one out. Next, we have the On Cloud X4. It's a beginner to intermediate shoe, fits her. It's for short to mid distances. That also fits her. She runs 6 miles. That's a mid distance. It's low and firm for the cushion. She wants a firm shoe, so that also fits her as well. It's for a midfoot to heel striker. She's a midfoot striker, and it's for neutral pronation. It's kind of seeming like the perfect shoe so far. Let's go on to our next one to see as well. This is our Saucony Kinvara 13. beginner to intermediate, she's intermediate. Short to mid, she's a mid distance runner. Cushion, low balanced. She didn't have any preferences for that, so that's fine. Oh, wait, yes, she did. Sorry, yes, she did. The balanced is, moderate cushioning. So she would like, she didn't really have a preference. She didn't mention anything about, you know, wanting a balanced shoe or a low shoe. She's more just looking for firm or no support. So this could potentially fit. This is for forefoot and midfoot. She's a midfoot striker, and it's for neutral pronation. She's a neutral, she has neutral pronation. But I think that we can actually X this one out because it doesn't fit as best as it could. She could use this shoe, by the way. This is not like X'd out, but I think the best shoe for her is actually the On Cloud X4. It fits everything that she wants perfectly, right? And I know that was kind of like, ooh, I still don't get it. Ashley, I'm still confused. Don't worry. We're going to practice this a few more times. And even then, you'll still get to apply this knowledge on your own at some point after this session. So don't worry. All right, guys. So now we have John. And John, we have all his information, what he wants, his runner stats, his distance. Now I want you to try to figure out what type of shoe fits for John based on everything we know. All right. So I'm actually going to, give you a couple of seconds to look at everything, read the information, pause the video if need be, and I'm gonna start counting down from 5 right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said on Cloud X4, not quite. The reason why it's not the on Cloud X4 is because he wants a shoe that is soft and a high stack. This shoe is low and firm. And I also want to tell you that he also is an overpronator. An overpronator is going to go for a shoe that has support, And also, he's a forefoot striker. This shoe is made for midfoot and heel. So it's already too many Xing out of stuff. If it was like one or two, we could probably that could probably fit. But right now, no. If you also said the New Balance More V5, you would also kind of be wrong. Even though we did recommend it earlier just based off his preferences, but when we have the whole picture, we can kind of look at it like, because he is he's an overpronnator. Okay, so overpronators, like I just said, need that support in the shoe. Most they're recommended support in shoes, right? So it has everything that he wants so far, except the pronation is neutral on the New Balance More V5, and that's just not gonna cut it for John. Meanwhile, if you said the Saucony Hurricane 24, that is the shoe for John because it fits everything just like the New Balance More V5 did, except the pronation is for overpronation and it's helps with support. So yeah, it's a lot, but don't worry. We're gonna do it again. So I hope you see how I break down the shoes and looking at John's stats and his preferences in the distance and looking at the shoes that I have as options, and I'm able to pick a shoe that's for him, that fits him best. But that doesn't mean that this is a perfect science. Like I said, he might be fine with the New Balance More V5, but this is just me trying to teach you the ropes and the patterns. All right, so now we have our friend Chris, and I'm gonna let you read all of his stats and distance preferences and read the shoes below. And take this time to actually pause the video because even though I'm counting down from 5, the reason why this is a video is so you have time to analyze everything. And of course, I'm gonna break it down with you towards the end when we get when it comes time for you to see if your answer was correct. So starting from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's start. If you look at Chris, he's a beginner. He runs 3 to 4 miles. We know that's short distance, maybe a little mid because mid is 4 to 9. But in between short and mid, he's a heel striker. He has a heel strike. He's a supinator, and he prefers a balanced stack. All right. So if you said the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 23, it's not the best, okay? Because even though it's for beginner to intermediate, short to mid, he wanted a shoe for I wanted a shoe that's a balanced stack. And this is a high and soft shoe. And we want to take their preferences into account. And that's just not the shoe for him. It does fit his heel strike, but it's also a shoe for overpronation. He's a supinator. Remember, supinators, when they're running, or whatever, when they're running, it's more like they land on this edge and they barely roll inwards. It's little to none. So they could just be, stationary here without, remember, when we pronate, it's natural to roll inwards a little, your ankle, okay, your foot. He has little to no rolling inward for his foot. So we don't want to like overcorrect that with this support shoe because supinators don't need a support shoe. It's the overpronators that need one. If you said the Nike Pegasus, though, you would be correct because not only is it for beginner to intermediate, short to mid, it's also balanced. It has balanced cushion, and I know I put balanced size. It's a balanced feel, so not too soft, not too firm. I'm sorry if I didn't say that before, but yes, it's not too soft, not too firm. If you also see that it's for all types of foot strike from forefoot, mid to heel, so he's good there. And then, of course, it's a neutral pronation. And like I said, for neutral pronators, like I said, most supinators do not need to correct their running pronation. Like when they're running, they don't really correct it that much. They are fine to use neutral pronation shoes for neutral pronation. And of course, if you also said the Asics Nova Blast 5, you're also correct because it's for beginner to intermediate, short to mid. It's balance or balanced soft, sorry, which it fits him. He doesn't really care about it being soft or not, but he definitely wants it to be balanced. And of course, it fits his foot strike, and it is neutral pronation, which he is fine to use that shoe because he is a supinator. And if you're still confused, do not worry. We got one more runner to look at. Now let's help our friend, our runner, Kelly. She is the last runner that we're going to help out. And remember, I want you to analyze the shoe, be able to just look at the whole picture and, kind of understand how to choose that shoe. It takes time. Pause the video if you need to. Take all the time in the world. It's not a science, but we're just following patterns. All right. So I'm going to count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said the Saucony Hurricane 24, it's not quite. It's not quite. I know you're probably thinking, but it's high support. Remember, though it fits beginner to intermediate, and it's mid to long distance. I know it's like mid to long, then it's automatically out, like I said. Though you can use certain shoes even outside of what it's recommends. Um, but so that doesn't always take out a shoe just because it says mid to long. But it's just basically everything. Like if there's too many X's, like Xing out, and it's not fitting, then we probably don't want to recommend it. It's high and soft for cushion. She doesn't really care about that. So it doesn't matter if it was even firm and low. So, she doesn't care about that. So it doesn't matter what we put for there. For foot strike, she is a heel striker, and this shoe is for forefoot and midfoot strikers. So it's kind of like another X. And then we have pronation. She is an overpronator, and it is good for high support, so that is not something that's X'd out. It was more for the foot strike and the distance. Now, she could possibly still use the shoe. Listen, if she wanted this shoe, she could running it if she wanted to. But compared to our Brooks Adrenaline GTS 23, it's a kind of much better fit. It's beginner to intermediate, short to mid, high and soft. Remember, she didn't really mention the cushion. She doesn't really prefer anything. She could take whatever, but it is for heel strikers and it is for overpronators. That is perfect for her. Remember, she also wants support. So that's perfect for the type of person that she is. Because even if she was an overpronator and she was like, I don't want a support shoe, I want a neutral shoe, that's fine too, but she wants that support shoe. Then we also have the Asics Gel Kayano 23s. This is beginner to intermediate, short to mid. But remember, it's got the heel, it's for heel strikers and it's for overpronators. And that's the perfect fit we're looking for her because she wants that support, which is definitely for overpronators, and she wants that heel strike because that's what she prefers. And we're also really want to put that emphasis on her preferences as well. So I hope that you guys kind of understand the pattern and everything when going through these four runners and seeing their preferences, their running stats, and the distance and tying that all together. So yeah, let's continue on to the last thing. So you're probably once again asking, why do these all matter? And there's a simple, tying it together matter to tell you why it all matters, right? So not only is distance, focusing on the length of the run, it also helps us figure out the amount of cushion that a shoe needs. Remember, short distance, low, less cushioning, mid distance, balanced, moderate cushioning, and long distance, high, a lot of cushioning most of the time. And then we have our preferences, just based on what a runner wants in a shoe. What they want is most often the most important. Sometimes we can recommend a shoe that fits them better, but if they just want that shoe, how can, you fight with that? But, try to push them in the right direction to a shoe that might fit them. And then we have tying it all together, our runner stats, our distance, our preferences. It just paints the overall picture. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did not put their weight in that little, like, figuring out how to recommend a shoe for our forerunners, Kelly, John, Julie, and Chris. They didn't have their weight in there. And that's because you don't need to know everything. It's just like if you only have one or two things that you know about them, it's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. You can still recommend a shoe. You can still pick a shoe out for them. It is just all about painting an overall picture. And even if you don't know anything, I'm going to even show you a method to help you choose a shoe later on that's towards the end and stuff like that. But that's all this is about, is choosing a shoe based on what you know. Don't try to force anything. It's a subjective science, I like to say. And of course, after this is the online learning portion, so you'll get this information all again in an online learning format, and you get to apply what you just did all again in an online learning format, your own pace. And you will definitely have the time to understand and learn what this is all about and interact with it all again. So thank you for learning. I'll see you in session 3, where we'll learn about my favorite part of running shoes, which is shoe aspects. So see you next time.